This program is intended for informational purposes only and does not contain medical advice. As always, please contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Welcome to another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford.
Do you want your phone in the shot?
Yes, I have, because I have no teleprompter. I'm about to address the fact that I have my phone in the shot because I got to read off of it. No worries. We're going to keep that. I'm going to keep that. So my cameraman just stopped me because I have my phone in my hand, but I need it because I have no teleprompter, okay? That's what happens when you're self-funded.
Where the sponsors are.
Right? Okay. Before I introduce my guest today, this episode is something that I have been thinking of for, Rach, how long?
2 years.
A very long time.
Wow.
A very long time. As I entered my 40s and I started to experience the joys of aging, I started thinking to myself, boy, have we been sold a bill of goods as women. We have been convinced and conditioned to feel like life is over for us after 40. And boy, was that a big, fat, giant lie. So I've written this little monologue that I want to read to you guys because I don't have a teleprompter, so you're getting this no frills. Aging, the fine art of discovering new wrinkles, new wisdom, and a sudden inability to stand up without making sound effects. Today, we're going to be diving into the fabulous, frustrating, and often funny world of women and aging. Let's face it, somewhere between being called Miss and being asked if we qualify for the senior discount, something magical and mildly confusing happens. Society tells us to fight aging with creams, serums, and green juice. But what if we just embraced it? What if the lines on our faces were just life's way of giving us a 5-star Yelp review? Today, we're talking about aging, but not as a curse, as a comeback. Because the truth is, getting older as a woman isn't the end of relevance. It's the beginning of saying what we really think, eating the cake, and finally understanding why elastic waistbands are a gift from the gods. Did I hit it
So
on the mark?
true.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So sit back and enjoy this episode. If you can handle a glass of wine, then go get that. But after the age of 45, usually wine is like an absolute no-no. It feels like recovering from surgery, just having like a glass of wine. So I'm going to introduce you to my guests. I have handpicked these ladies because I wanted to show you guys an accurate depiction of what aging gracefully really looks like. So I am in my 40s, my late 40s, but I'm still in my 30s. Okay? The two ladies sitting next to me, they are going to represent 50s and 60s. I'm sitting next to Angelique Miles, who is a personal friend of mine. Well, these ladies are new friends of mine, but I've known Angelique for a little bit longer. Angelique Miles is a woman that just defies logic and reasoning. When you find out that she's 58 years old, you literally want to ask who, what, when, where, how. It doesn't compute. You see photos of her walking on the beach in Jamaica in, bikinis with the 6-pack abs, and you're like, how did she do it? Please tell me your secret, sensei. I am your grasshopper, And so Angelique was one of the people that I thought I have to have an episode around quote unquote aging gracefully and what it actually looks like. Sitting next to her is Mia Mauge. I started lightweight stalking Mia on Instagram. My For You page is a combination of cats, dogs, gender worry stuff, and also menopause, but also the women, just a smattering of women that just look like they are just living their best lives, after the decade in which society says our relevance ceases to exist. Our vibrancy just kind of goes out the window and we're just old and washed up and we're all these horrible things, which is a complete and total lie. Enter Mia Mauge. I mean, stunning isn't really the word to accurately depict her. I mean, she's just more beautiful in person than you are in pictures.
Oh, thank you.
She's from London, so she's joining us from across the pond. And I was so excited getting the opportunity to talk to her and her daughter Carmen, who were really excited about being a
Same.
part of this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad that you did. You're going to be representing the decade of 60s since you're heading, you're heading there this year. When's your birthday? Remind me.
October.
Okay, October. All right.
Having a big party, so
And you're having a big party.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that sounds
We're all
fantastic.
excited. Thank you.
A few weeks ago, a mutual friend of mine and Angelique, Bevy Smith, posted, or I should say reposted, a video of Kacy Duke, whose name I knew for many, many years, celebrity trainer to the stars. I just didn't know and had no, reason to wonder how old she was. But this post was Kacy in Hawaii on a solo trip celebrating her 70th birthday in a bikini. And I was like, holy Christ on a cracker. This is this is the episode. This is it. I have 4 women here, myself included, representing 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s for an accurate visual description of what vibrancy looks like, of what aging gracefully looks like, what it looks like not hiding from your age, from feeling empowered by your age. Am I making this up?
Yeah,
This is right.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I have so many questions to ask the 3 of you. Is everybody comfortable? Everybody ready to
Yeah.
go?
Very, very.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I hope you
Daisy's
guys
comfortable. and very
Daisy's comfortable. She's definitely booed up with Mia. She senses that you're a dog person. And that's, this is my little co-host. Okay, so I want to get started asking questions. I have several themes that I want to address while I've got you guys here. But the first one that I want to address is beauty, fashion, and aging publicly. All 4 of us are forward-facing public figures, and sometimes, that comes with complications at times, especially when you feel like life has come along and dealt you a really hard hand, and then there might be expectations that you place on yourself, and not just expectations from your audience or the public, for you to continue to be who they believe you to be. I feel like, Angelique, you can really speak to this because you just had brain surgery about a year ago, really traumatic brain surgery. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But to quote Bevy Smith, our friend, the great Bevy Smith, she often says, it gets greater later. Do you guys agree or disagree with that sentiment?
Agree.
Agree.
Agree?
100%.
Why would you say that it gets better later?
For me, I believe I've really come into my own in my 50s. Like, I've been able to do what I do now, not in spite of being in my 50s, but because I'm in my 50s. Nobody was paying attention to me in my 40s.
Really?
No, nobody paid me any mind. Until I said, I'm 50. They're like, really?
Mm.
And
everybody
45,
wanted
I
to
was
know-
like, oh, okay.
Everybody wanted to know what the secret sauce was.
Right. As soon as I turned 50, it was like, okay, well, let's see what's happening here.
Mia, you and Kacy emphatically agreed with that.
Yes.
Tell me
Yeah.
why.
For me, well, I'm going back to you saying nobody paid you any attention in your 40s. I didn't pay myself any attention in my 40s. Like, I did not value aging in my 40s at all. I bought into the notion that once you're over 40, it's over, you're irrelevant. I needed to hide it. I needed to cover my silver hair. I needed to buy every anti-wrinkle potion. I really felt like I had to cover it up. And then I hit 50 and I was like, I'm done. I've been doing this for like 10 years now. Enough. And I just made an intentional decision to just embrace it and see what the world thought of that. And thankfully, it embraced me. And, I think once you've embraced yourself and once you come to your own, like you were saying, you can't be ignored then. You can't be overlooked. If you're still buying into societal beauty standards and societal expectations of you as an older woman or a woman over 40, then that's what you exude. I was covering up, I was ashamed, embarrassed, all of that. And I was working in the digital world as well, which is very seen to be a young world. I just upped my skill set, and just went for it and combined age with the digital world and found myself here. Look at me, I'm on your show. What's going on?
Kacy, what about you?
I think that I've always felt younger than maybe I actually was. And I think what happened for me, it was always about the mindset. I always felt that if I can connect and be happy and be extremely honest about where I was, I mean, the hard stuff, no matter how hard it was to look at it, if I can just deal with that just in its face and say, can we get over this? Then I can feel happy. And I think that when I decided to not look at age as something that is a problem, because in the business that I'm in, I see everything. I see you before you have on makeup. I see your flaws. I see everything. So I know that all that glitters isn't gold. And I think it really was about mindset, motivation, and movement. And so even adopting that philosophy, for my fitness slogan, sort of big, I think that helped me decide that, you know what, I'm going to embrace this at every age. And 40, you're right. I was still feeling myself. I had a child young and I was still, out there doing things. But 50s, I started to say, okay, looking pretty good for a 50. And obviously the health and fitness is working for you, but you've been through a lot in your mindset and you came back from that. That was the most important thing to me, not the physical flash.
Yeah,
When I really, really, started celebrating who I was and who I was becoming, that really, I think, is the true fountain of youth. Be an age defier, not an age denier. And that really helped me. That really, really helped me. And through hard moments of going through the journey of becoming 70. And I have to tell you, it's fucking amazing.
I'm so looking forward to it. Speaking to her.
I'm like, I have a lot to look forward to.
It really is. It's like you really are at a point that you are, this is grown women heat.
Yeah. There's so much
This is just like,
there's so much fear associated with getting older. I don't know if men feel the same level of fear that we
think they
do.
do.
They just don't admit it.
They admit it, but I think they show it in other ways
I was
too.
going to say,
yes.
they
Really?
show it in things like
Buying sports
Who they
cars,
date.
dating people inappropriately.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
got it.
exactly what I was going to say.
Or
The
being
pool
very
is really-
frank about it, that they don't really want to grow old. They have this fear of it. They
Yeah.
don't want to. They don't want a woman that's older. They don't want to grow old.
But I don't know that they identify it as that, though. Like
What do
you
they-
said, I think it's more about action. I think their actions say it, like going for younger women. Like, yeah.
Like
I
the cars,
agree.
like
yeah.
the just dressing a
Yeah.
certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So aging is more than just, it's more than just physical. It's a feeling, and sometimes on social media I'll see, posts of like 30-something-year-olds saying, "Oh my God, once I hit 32, I said, you really need to reevaluate your entire life and what you do if you started feeling aging at 32. Do you know what you, at 32, you could bounce a quarter off any part of my body. I was lit. Even 37, same thing. Like, I remember the day that I felt I'm getting older. I was 41 years old. I was living in California now. I was on my deck and I was wearing this, little kind of bohemian little dress. And I had middle, tummy weight.
Yeah.
I have always been snatched. Okay, I'm known for being snatched. This 19-inch waist when I came into the game has always been very, very tiny. And suddenly, no matter what I did, I could not get rid of this weight on my belly. That was kind of the first sign for me that no matter what I did, something was, in control outside of me. Do you guys remember the first feeling of an aging body? Tell me about yours, Angelique.
Mine was I'd gone to the doctor, as I go to the doctor all the time because
We do.
I had an autoimmune condition. Anyway, I was at the doctor all the time.
How old were you at this time?
I was 40.
Okay.
I just turned 40. And before then, I was very thin. Like my 20s, I was like 120 something pounds. I'm 5'9", so I was super skinny. In my 30s, I'd gained some weight, maybe 130 something pounds. So I go to the doctor and I'm weighed and I was 153 pounds. But I was happy because I'd been skinny, so skinny all my life. So I go home and I tell my mother, I was like, Mom, you know, I gained 153 pounds. I'm so happy. She's like, that's how it starts. And sure enough, I went back to the doctor 6 months later and I was 160 pounds. And that's when I started CrossFit. Because I was like, oh, we're going to stop this right
Yeah.
now.
Slow. Yeah, we're gonna nip this
Your
in the bud.
metabolism slowed down, and you were at that point of when it happened.
Yeah.
You know,
My mother was like, oh, that's how it starts. Because I was like, oh, you know, get a little curvy now. She was like, okay.
Mia, what about you?
Similar to you, actually. It was, so my weight has always gone up and down. I've not had a consistent weight, but I do remember being in a car as a passenger and just the movement of the car. I remember feeling a little jibble in my calf that I hadn't felt. And it just that magic jibble in my calf. I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. But so, I mean, no, it's not belly fat, but it was like a little kind of, yeah. So yours was your belly, mine was my calf. And they're still big now, but but since then I've just learned that it happens in stages and there is a process of adjustment and you can put up a fight for some of it, but some of it you just have to be like, oh right, okay, I'm just
lean
have
into it.
yeah. And then you accept that and then something else comes along and it's just literally a process. That's
It is. I mean, it's a process. Different for me because I've been in the business. So, you know, I went from track and field to dance and into fitness. So I've always been, you know, I think the only time I felt that was when, even childbirth, I didn't really feel that. I knew that was weight that it was allowed. You know, was gained as much, you know, gained near 20 pounds. But after my hip replacement surgery, when I could not do anything for a few months.
When was that?
That was 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I had to sit it out. And I had to watch my muscles kind of atrophy. And I had to be still and honor the physical therapy. And for someone who's really physical, who does this for a living, and as I'm training people, you know, I'm not the one always doing the exercises with them, but my mindset was even more so on what they were doing because I couldn't do it. And I think that might have, for a few months, I was like, damn, am I aging? Am I getting old? And then I just said, I knew how the body would work. And I'm always so amazed how the body is so resilient that you can start exercising tomorrow if you've never done it, and you would see results. And it would help you out on some level. And once I got my head straight and got off the pity pot, because it's a loss.
You have to. You
know?
have to.
It's a loss.
You have to
embrace it and understand it, and you know,
you have to allow yourself, give yourself grace.
Yes,
got to give yourself a lot of grace in these years.
And I'm preaching this to everyone else about show it love, celebrate the body you have to get the body you want. Well, I had to practice what I preach, and that's what I think that I love about that lesson. It forced me to really be really practice what I preach, but also understand and be as loving with myself as I possibly could. In the midst of people, you know, maybe judging me because I got a little plump, or, you know, but it is what it is. And I think that, like I said, wait till you guys get here.
I think you did great.
Hey, look at you.
Your goals for everybody sitting here. You are our goal.
Well, I celebrate you all, and I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be here and be able to talk about this because, you know, no one ever wants to talk about it sometimes, and it's like
I'm trying to change the I'm trying to change the tide. I'm trying to literally you know, create a pathway for people for us to normalize this conversation so that
especially women,
especially Black women, because
because we forget that they were queens before they were kings. We forget how much that we have the power within us to really reinvent ourselves. We do it.
But I also think that it is just so self-destructive to our concept of self-worth to constantly feel like we have to, you know, we have to change things about ourselves, that we have to try to fight. I
Mm.
can't stand the term anti-aging.
Mm.
I cannot
No.
stand it. And I never thought anything about it when I was younger because why? It didn't really
Yeah.
apply to me. But now, as I've gotten into my late 40s, I'm like, wait, anti-aging, why should I fight this?
Mm-hmm.
Who says I have to fight this?
Yep.
Who says that I have to be upset about lines in my face? It literally lets you know the story of my life, that
Yeah.
I am battle tested
Yes.
and that I'm a warrior, so there's a possibility that in a couple of years, maybe I want some Botox because I've got too many lines. I don't know how I'm going to feel, but I'm also going to offer myself grace at that time too.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just appreciating the fact that I don't feel the need to improve on anything,
Yeah.
that I'm good as I am. I'm
days.
enough.
I do have days because I know I have my wrinkles in my forehead, and I was like, well, maybe I should try something. But at the same time, I like that I can be open to it because I see a lot of people who do things to their face and they look gorgeous, and some who don't.
Some people who
You
look
know-
like, girl, you might need a therapist.
Yes,
Instead of
that work.
yeah.
Done right, it looks nice.
But also when they keep going back, and it's just like,
Mm.
do you have any mirrors in your house?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I mean,
saying? Like
sometimes it's pretty
you know when somebody's gone overboard. So here's one thing that I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm on a podcast with a bunch of guys and they're constantly insinuating that I am in competition with younger women.
Just like a man. Just like
I know. So I'm just like, I'm trying to protect them from y'all. Really. It's really like a sisterhood kind of thing, where we want to offer mentorship, not block their blessings or, try to, kind of siphon off opportunities from happening for them. It's just literally trying to educate them on things that we've gone through that we wish somebody older could have come to our younger selves and given us that, that piece of wisdom or mentorship.
In competition, I don't understand.
Just merely simply by me being my age and all of the young women that, are on Instagram and in various states of undress. And well, because of who I am, I must be in competition. I must look at them and I must be jealous. And I'm like, I lived my life.
I've been there, done.
Yeah, that is ageism. I lived my life and it was grand.
And they're probably projecting.
There's 1,000% projecting.
That's their fear.
I honestly would not want to be in my 20s right now in 2025.
No.
I know, because when we were in our 20s, we didn't, we didn't.
There was pressure.
There was pressure, but not the pressure that they have now with with this being the digital age and recording every single moment.
Social media.
Yes,
My God. So our dirt is in the closet. You know what I'm saying? It's underneath our shoes. Your dirt is all over the place. But I remember being in my 20s and thinking that older women were competing with me. I remember thinking that. And now as an older woman, I'm like, no, girl. I wonder, what was your relationship with aging or your perception of it in your 20s versus the actual act of it now? Being in the moment.
Thinking about it.
I never
in my
I don't
20s
think I thought
about
about
age.
it at all.
I was thinking about it's a time.
I'm funny, literally
Yes,
having a good time
I don't think
living
I was
in the
thinking
now.
about age
No.
at that time. I think it's more important now. I wish they would think about just taking care of themselves and just looking at the aging process more now and not and starting now, taking care of themselves and being healthy and doing what you need to do so you can grow old age gracefully.
Just going to say there was no reference for us though. Now they have
The
reference.
Golden
like,
Girls was
Right.
the reference.
yeah,
Right.
The Golden Girls was the reference, and
that
I
seems
love
so
all
far
four
away.
of them,
Yeah,
but
they
that's
were
the
great, but
reference.
they-
And I feel like
But
everybody
they look
here.
very grandma to me.
But here's the
Yeah,
thing:
they
is I
do,
feel
but
like
they're
everybody
probably
here,
our
we're all
age, yeah.
older than them right
Yeah.
now. Like
Yeah.
if you looked at the age of what the Golden Girls, we're all older than them.
Which is
And they
crazy.
represent that grandma
Go.
model. I mean, I don't. I'm a grandma of four, but I think that's changing. I think that the way that we age and the way we look at aging is very much changed.
I think
I think you'll look the same at 70.
Yeah. So what do you wish that you knew then that you know now?
That I didn't have to worry, that I could be myself. That I was okay. I think that I sometimes just the worry.
for me, self-love was very elusive.
You're right.
That
It was
negative.
yeah, that negative
yeah.
narrative
Yeah.
was constant 24/7, 365. I could not shut it
Yeah.
off.
Same.
And I always had to project that everything was perfect, that I was unaffected by everything, there was no crack in the facade. That's what I'm always talking about, is that facade. Meanwhile, I am falling apart behind it
Right.
because my self-worth was so ensconced in the male gaze. Hello, how I introduced myself to the world. Like, I almost set myself up for that unwittingly and unknowingly. So if I could go back and teach myself something, it would be to decenter,
Yeah.
male attention. It's not,
Yes.
it was not the ultimate goal. You could still get it no matter what, but just decenter it from, you know, from what you, from what was really important. And
Or
I,
not letting a man define what happiness was for you. I think that that's what it's been,
Right.
to really know that you're enough. I think that back then I was thinking that, oh, get a great husband and, have a great life, have a couple of kids, and that's going to be your main happiness for a minute. And
Right.
I tried it twice, and you know what? I like being who I am and single, and it took a long time. I wish I can go back and tell, slow down. You don't have to get married. I would tell my younger self to, you're okay, just who you are. Don't change for anyone.
yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
did a lot of that,
yeah.
just to be able to say whatever you want, sire, whatever you want, sire.
Right.
And
And
now,
Angelique, would you rather,
I
what would you
would
have
tell
chosen?
myself, know who you are so no one else can tell you who you are.
know who you are.
It's important because I think I was so impressionable. Somebody could say, you know what, you should do this, or I look at you as this, and I take that in, and that not really be who I am. Or it'd be something negative, and I'd think something negative. Oh, they think that, so maybe it's true, But if you know who you are, no one can tell you. Like right now, no one can tell me, Angelique, you should gain some weight. What? Excuse me?
Mm.
I know who I am, so you can't tell me.
That's 50s for you. That's where it starts.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I get constructive criticism from someone I love and care about, but you can't be a stranger off the street
Yeah.
on social media and tell me
I
you
should
are
be.
who you think I should be.
Yeah, what about you?
No, I agree with all of them. But in addition to that, I would say not to not believe that you have to be at a certain stage by a certain age,
Yeah.
or that you have to have accomplished a certain thing.
Yes.
It's
That
never.
pressure.
I suppose it's such a cliche that it's never too late. But for certain things, it really isn't. Like you
Yeah.
can pivot and evolve. You can continue to stay curious and to learn.
Yeah.
So it's not. You don't necessarily have to have reached a certain stage by a certain age.
I was actually going to do this when I start talking about the career portion of the interview. I was going to give a call to action to, those of you who are watching in your 20s that, you really should try your best to take the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to have arrived at 30. You don't have to have it all figured out at 30. I know that there's so many, you see the highlight reel of people's lives on Instagram and TikTok and, all these success stories, especially in the digital world. We see like these 24-year-old billionaires and that sort of thing. You can't let that, kind of knock you off your course, because the fact of the matter is you don't have to have it all figured out at all. Like, you can reinvent, you can pivot, you can do all of these things before and you have your entire life to do it. Like, wow, I'm 48. I started this podcast. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no number.
Yes.
Dictates.
That's another one.
That's what I was talking about, the pressure of the 20s. Like you're looking ahead and saying, what do I want to, so what do you want to do what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to build? That's pressure.
Okay, so Mia,
Yes.
your modeling career started in 2020, which is fascinating. So before that, you said you were in the digital world,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
You're stunningly beautiful. Didn't anybody ever say prior to 2020, you could be a model? Did you ever get that?
No, I didn't. No, and I wouldn't have done it either,
Mhm.
had they, because the reason why I do it now is because it has purpose, because I want to show the younger generation. I want to represent for my own generation, but I also want to show the younger generation that there's beauty throughout the ages. Might be a different kind of beauty, but there is beauty beyond youth, and so that's why I do it.
So that's how you would define beauty at this stage in your life, is that it's timeless.
Yeah, I think, and also it comes from within as well. It comes from confidence. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than somebody that doesn't necessarily tick all the boxes for conventional beauty or what we think of traditional beauty, but they walk in a room and they own their own space, and their presence is beautiful. Yeah. So for me, I've always thought beauty defies aesthetics and the exterior.
Angelique, we have a little bit, less degrees of separation because we know so many of the same people. So you come up in conversation a lot, whether it's me bringing you up or just people just talking about just how beautiful and stunning you are, and just when you're very candid about your age, so people are like, how, Sway, how? And basically now you're like an influencer as well. You're a beauty influencer. You're
Fitness, lifestyle, yeah.
lifestyle. How would you define beauty at this stage of your life?
Being comfortable with who you are. I'm comfortable now. Like, I can't say that I was comfortable in my 40s and 30s. I'm really like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going back to, I know who I am. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. I just know who I am, and there's beauty in that, and knowing my strengths and weaknesses.
What are your beauty rituals like right now in comparison to what they might have been in your in your 20s, and which ones make you feel the most empowered and sexy?
I do everything.
You do.
I do.
I'd be
everything.
stalking your
And I
Instagram
enjoy
page.
it.
Yeah.
In my 20s, it was very much, I barely wore makeup. I did work out though. It was like Lottie Burke method, like,
I
cheap,
remember
fancy
that.
stuff back then. But now I wake up, I have a ritual. When I wake up, I say my affirmations and I pray, and I have a little pep mat that I get some energy on, and I meditate a little bit. I don't speak to anyone really before 10. I put on my workout clothes first thing. I have a skin ritual that I do most mornings, like washa, all that stuff. Um, I haven't been, but usually I will sauna or steam. I'm going back to that. For with my brain thing, I just felt weird doing it, but I'm going back to it. Um, I I'll dry brush. I everything, massages, all that stuff.
It's a lot
I
of
like
self-care.
I like self-care. I love to take care of myself, mind, body, and soul. Not just my body, everything.
Kacy, what about you?
Angelique says it all. I mean, I think it's about body and soul, and for me, it is the idea of sensuality. It's like that's my ritual, not because I just I have a podcast about, shameless plug, but the idea behind sensuality is to be confident, not aggressive. And I love, that's my ritual, is to savor everything. Like this glass of champagne, I'm it's nice to just take my time and just savor it while you're talking. And it's a beautiful taste. And I slow down now at 70, and I really embrace everything. And that's why I think sensuality is so important. I want younger people to start now understanding that it's not about being sexy. It's about being confident. It's about knowing what you want. It's about allowing yourself to say, no, I like this instead of always just going along. It's like understanding what makes you shine, and not being afraid to do that. And I think for years, maybe I didn't embrace it, but it started happening in my late 60s. And I said, sensuality is the way, because it feels good. I stop and smell the roses. I know the texture of the shirt. My sheets are always something that I can feel. I think it's really important to really get into the senses. I'm happy I'm doing it now. I don't want you to wait this long to really embrace the senses of smell, taste, touch. Like have a love affair with your cup of coffee if you have to. I mean, just savor things. That to me that's my ritual. It's all about sensuality.
Yeah, I agree with that. Prior to us starting I asked the ladies, or told them one of the questions that I was going to ask them about personal evolution and identity, because I wanted you guys to be prepared for this question. How has your identity as a woman evolved since turning 50? And the reason why I wanted them to think about this is because oftentimes we get our titles and our identity mixed up. You know, identity, I think, is something that you feel, you know. Titles are exterior. You know, you all are mothers, you're a grandmother, you're a trainer, you are a model, you are an influencer. Like, there's so many titles that can be applied to all three of you, myself included, by way of how we introduce ourselves to people. But identity is completely different. You know, who do you feel yourself to be? Um, the woman that you are since you've turned 50.
It's hard. I mean, it's difficult to put a label on it, but I definitely feel that I have like a really powerful sense of purpose that I've always had, but not through my own mouth, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I was
Yeah,
gonna ask,
yeah.
does the sense of purpose you had prior to 50, was it rooted in things that you were told to embrace and try to embody, and just ideals that are rooted in, I don't know, a sense of perfectionism and kind of like what we're supposed to do, the expectation of what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, for me, it was more like I've always wanted to make change, make positive change, whether that's for my community or for, underrepresented artists in the music industry or whatever it was. It was always wanting to make change. But it was behind the scenes, whereas now I feel I've come so much, like you were talking about coming into your own, that has happened to me. And now I use my own body as a vehicle for that. I think that's where the difference is for me. So I've been a mum. I'm going back to what you were saying actually earlier about self-care. When we were talking about self-care, like I really leaned into self-care after the menopause. Sorry, I'm changing the subject
No, it's okay, because we're going there. We are
but
going to
after
menopause. Trust me, it's my
the
favorite thing to talk
the
about.
menopause was the thing that really was the catalyst for change for me in terms of realizing my own needs. And I know this is not answering that question that you've just asked, but I did want to raise it because it made such a difference for me. Prior to that, I was just the titles. I was a mom. I was, a working person. I was the daughter of a mother that was growing older, all those responsibilities. I never took care of me. And it wasn't until the menopause that really grounded me and made me stop in my tracks and think, oh my God, I need to really look after myself. After looking after everybody else, I need to look after me. And that really was a turning point.
I think it's a really powerful moment in a woman's life where she gets that aha moment of, I really got to look after myself,
Yeah.
because if I don't, I might
Where are
not
we
survive.
heading?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
You know,
It's-
for me,
yeah.
it was a lot earlier. It was 44, 43, 44. It was, my mom was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of colon cancer, and it took her pretty fast. And I had that light bulb moment. You know, I'd already had a traumatic brain injury from a car accident a year and a half ago, and that was its own, kind of cataclysmic event. But it was a walk in the park compared to my mom passing away. And that negative narrative inside my head all the time telling me that I was nothing, that I wasn't worth anything, just whatever it wanted to tell me. I just had a conversation with myself. I remember I was in the bathroom at my aunt's house and my mom had just passed away, maybe 2 days late, like from when I had this conversation. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and that voice was talking to me again. And I said, Mel, if you don't learn to love yourself, you're not going to make it. You got to figure out how to shut that voice off and how to learn to love yourself authentically, not just lip service, not just say, oh yeah, I love myself. No, the true embodiment of loving yourself. If you don't know how, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that started another therapy journey for me, just a totally different conversation having with my therapist as to how do I learn to love myself? I don't think I know. That was like revolutionary for me actually to say out loud.
Yeah.
I don't think I know how to love myself. And so just asking her that, she started to supply me with tools to understand what self-love actually meant, and Angelique, you had brain surgery just about a year ago, and we discussed, the concept of before you and after you. I had that moment, after my car accident happened. I described that moment, who I was after the accident that's after me. I remember being her before, and she lived with a sense of, I don't know, just cavalierness, if that's even a word, but it's just like the same thought process, mentality, and worries that I had after me, and after me was so different from her before. I wonder, how has your identity changed, and your perception of your identity changed since the operation?
I'm still trying to figure it out, honestly. I don't know how I would identify myself right now because even though my surgery was a year ago, it's still so fresh to me because I lost my hearing on my right side. I still can't feel the right side of my face, and my equilibrium's off. I'm so not who I was. I don't feel normal. So I'm like, and I've not accepted that this is my new normal. I'm not accepting that. I'm going to figure some of
You're
this
still
out.
in the process.
So I'm still in the process of what am I going to do about this here? Like, they're saying it's permanent, but is it really?
Maybe not.
Is it really? Let's explore some things that I can do to figure that out. Same thing with the numbness on my right side, not being able to, my eyes very tight, not being able to, I have to watch how I eat because I'll have like food.
Yeah.
No.
Falling out the side.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
It's so embarrassing. But I'm like, I don't know quite how I would identify myself post brain surgery yet.
A lot of times people define themselves by their trauma.
Right. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, because
I
it's a
did
ball
that.
and chain that you don't want to have.
Right. I don't want to do that. Even though I do find myself saying, I had brain surgery last year.
Right. Sometimes
it's
it's useful.
to be your calling
Sometimes
card,
it's
but
useful.
you want people to
Don't ask me to
understand.
do too much, motherfuckers, okay? I just had my
No.
whole brain operation less than a year ago.
When I used the hip, I had a hip replacement.
Help me. Help me.
I get the wheelchair to the gate.
Exactly.
I will do that because I had hip surgery.
Right.
So, but you don't want it to be a ball and chain.
Right.
You don't want it to identify. But I think that you should take your time, like you're doing, and just figure it out because the body is resilient. The way that it can heal itself from your mindset. Doctors will say anything. I know there's definitely statistics out there that say how many people have healed themselves from things that it almost sounds like it's woo-woo.
Right.
But they have.
Right.
And I'm
going to try them all.
Yeah, exactly. Because I totally believe I've watched the body and I watched muscles manipulate and I've watched, I've shaped some of the most incredible bodies in the friggin' world, and not saying just celebrities, but just to watch how someone's body changes just from the exercise and watch how it changes from the mind.
Right.
That part is
The mind-body connection is so
Powerful.
wild.
that because it's emotional, it's spiritual, and it's physical.
Yeah.
The emotional is everything that you feel like. I feel like, oh my God, I feel so upset about this. I
Right.
feel great about this. It all starts from that feeling,
Right.
that divine thing that happens within you that it's so right here.
Yeah.
And the
The
spiritual
scariest
is your
thing for me, I
motivation.
think, was that I was doing everything right. Like I was taking, self-care. I was eating right. I'm doing all the fitness stuff, and it still happened to me. And at this age, like I didn't expect to go through this life unscathed by any health issues, but I didn't expect it at 58, 57, 58. So I can talk about the physical toll that it's had on me, but there's also a mental toll that I wasn't really prepared for.
There's a process of mourning that goes into, who you were in the months leading up to the surgery,
Ugh.
the life that you were living, just like,
Oh, because I was sick. Not sick. I hate to say the word sick, but I found out I had the tumor because I had intense facial pain.
Mm-hmm.
When I say intense facial pain, I've never felt pain like that in my life. So I was on a very strong medication, so around 6 months before my surgery, I wasn't myself.
Something was off.
Well, I was in pain.
Right.
And the medication was super strong. And I was like, if I was scared to not have the medication on me, I went to Kenya. I went to Africa. And I was like, let me find out if Kenya has this medication just in case I lose it. I had I had it in my bag. I had it hidden somewhere else. I had it in the fanny pack with me. I was like, if I lose this medication, I got to go home. Like it was that intense.
So you were undiagnosed at this point. You didn't have
I didn't know I had the
cancer
tumor, but I thought I just had trigeminal neuralgia. And by the time I got around to getting the MRI, I took my time.
Did you take your time because you kind of didn't want to know?
I was adjusting to the pain. I was like,
trying to manage it?
yeah, I was trying to manage the pain. So I found out I had the pain I had to go to the emergency room for in October. I didn't get an MRI until February 14th.
That's a long time.
Yeah. But it took that long to, like I said, manage the pain. It was the holidays. I was traveling. And I don't know, maybe my spirit knew, like, once you find out you had the tumor, it would change everything.
Yeah.
So once I found out I had the tumor, I remember reading in the forums, don't just take your neurologist's word for it. Make sure you go see a neurosurgeon. And sure enough, my neurologist was like, oh, just keep taking the medication. We'll monitor the tumor. I was like, oh, no, this is coming out. So I went to see a neurosurgeon. He was like, yeah, you got to get rid of this in 3 to 6 months or you're going to start like tripping over yourself, basically.
Wow.
So I still took the last date.
I'm glad that you read up on that to find out the additional steps that you needed to take, because a lot of people wouldn't be that proactive.
Oh, yeah, this is my brain. I was like, oh,
it's very, but it's
You were not ready to give up. You were not ready, so I'm not.
It's still very scary. So I want to switch gears and talk about career and visibility. We talked a lot about career pivoting. I gave the call to action to younger people to understand, there really is no hurry. That you can reinvent and pivot at any time that you want, and don't feel the pressure to be uber successful by the age of 30, because honestly, more people than not have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
I literally said that to myself the other day. I don't know what I'm doing. I know I look like I know what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I hate adulting. I hate it.
the passion.
It fucking sucks, okay? I really want to regress back into childhood. I want a whoopee. I want somebody to fucking take care of me, okay? But I digress. I'm a career woman, so let me pull my shit together. How would you guys say that you define success compared to your 20s and 30s? What stayed the same and what no longer applies?
I think it's pretty much the same for me. And honestly, when I was 30, I was very happy. I remember thinking at 30, I'm exactly where I want to be.
Wow.
I had a successful career in the music industry. I was engaged to be married. Not that that's how I define happiness now, although I do have other ideas.
But at the
time,
you
I was.
That's a perfect example of then and now.
Yeah. So, my parents still together to this day, married. I remember being very happy at 30. I ain't been that happy since, honestly. Content maybe, but I was very content, but I was very like, wow, I'm okay right now.
Do you think that in our younger years we chased happiness, and now in our older years we understand happiness is so elusive that the best that you can hope for is a consistent feeling of contentment? That it's easier to attain than a constant state of happiness?
I think there's like, for me, the difference is approval. So I think when I was younger, I was seeking approval, whereas now I don't. Like, it's like that's the last thing on my mind is what somebody else's, whether it's societal approval or expectation.
Did approval equal happiness back in your
I
20s
think
and
so
30s?
for me, yeah, I think so. I don't know if that goes back to my childhood. I have no idea, and whether that's just me.
Everybody's childhood
Yeah, it's
says something
important.
about
Yeah,
them.
it does for sure. But I think I less so now seek approval than when I was
Right,
younger,
and
for
that's part of
sure.
and that's
Yeah,
part of that's
yeah,
part of aging,
for
for
sure.
sure. It's like not
Mm.
giving a shit after a
Yeah.
while, especially in the 60s and the 70s. You just know what you like, and you know what makes you glow, and you really want to allow that,
And you
because
tap
when you
into
think about,
that. Mm.
less years, a lot of less years ahead of you than you have behind you, you really brings that to, not in a morbid way, but you really want to make sure that you're enjoying every moment of it.
Right.
And when you were talking about with success, I I I think you can be money rich and spiritually bankrupt. And I really love the idea that, yes, I love making money, and I love a life with ease, but that doesn't always come just with money. And I think that that to me is what I've changed. I thought that I had to be, for my son, I wanted to make sure I was wealthy, but not just rich, but wealthy. And I think now that I'm older, I want to be, I still want to have a good life, but I really want to make sure that I value every everything that I do, everything from my grandchildren to the sunset. I mean, just living life to the fullest.
Yeah.
Being curious.
And I think you really embody that, Kacy.
Thank you.
One thing that I would say about 40s is it's very turbulent. It's not only turbulent, it's a lot of things. It's wonderful, it's chaos, it's a new found sense of self-awareness. It's also a recognition of implementing boundaries.
Yes.
It's the onset of perimenopause. It's, maybe your parents become sick or they pass away, so you're dealing with like intense grief
Yes.
and loss. It's a lot of things, but also it's a decade of radical self-discovery. A lot of women who chase that white picket fence, getting married, having the kids, by 40s, they're like, I feel like I was promised a whole lot more than this bullshit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they really start looking for the exit ramp.
Yeah.
A lot of people find themselves in loveless marriages or marriages, just relationships that no longer, serve them. They become completely different people. Or maybe they've realized that they are in a dead-end career and they just have one chance left at, doing something that, they are impassioned by. What advice would you guys give to women who are in their 40s or even in their 50s and maybe even in their 60s that want to pivot? They want to reinvent, but they don't know how, or they might be really afraid.
Well, for me, it wasn't intentional. Sometimes the pivot's not intentional. I'm an accidental influencer, honestly. And it's weird to even use that word to me, but it's not always intentional. And I think before it gets to that point, it should be, because otherwise it's a lot of, could be a lot of heartache. So I say, and I've always been very good at this, like life is too short to be unhappy. I don't say in any unhappy situations longer than I need
You
to.
can do bad by yourself.
Like, this isn't
they say,
working.
right?
Whatever the situation. Okay, this is not working, and I'm making an exit, period. And I think that's important to know that and not stay unhappy. Don't live in unhappiness.
And at that age of 40, sometimes they're realizing that if they didn't have children yet, they may not have children.
Right.
And this brings on a whole other thing that women kind of
A little bit of maybe for some women a small grieving
Yes.
or a sense of mourning. Other women are like, I knew I was never gonna have kids and I don't regret it for a single second.
And that because women, we all can create more than just children. Women can create more than just children. And I think that that's the age when that mourning process happens for them, if it's in their 40s, and they'll say maybe some women get pregnant in their 40s.
Why
So,
would
you
they
know,
want to do that?
but
I'm
they
sorry.
do.
No, God bless you.
Trust
If
me,
you can, and that's what you want. But I
that's
mean,
a
the way
true
my
north.
back is set up these days, I could not imagine carrying a child at this age.
At 40, my
Baby's
sister
days are
did
for
it, and
young
she
people.
was
Hard enough to get out of bed. Shit,
miserable.
this shoulder is frozen. But carry on.
But I mean, that's the 40s. You know, you have these emotional things going on that are picking at your brain. And if if you have a good sense of self about what you know that you want. I mean, I've always known that I only wanted one child. I knew that. I knew that I wasn't gonna have more, and my son understood that. I love it, experiences. I don't like repetitiveness. So I knew I would rather skydive than have another kid. I'd rather do something else. So you get to understand at the same time what you want what you want or what you will allow at 40. I mean, you start to say, okay, well, I can't have kids, so what else am I? Or you can go down that rabbit hole to feel like you are less than.
I feel so sorry for women that choose that path. I
Yes.
mean, and sometimes it may feel like it's not a choice. I don't know what else to call it.
It is. It's always a choice what you allow.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
just
because you don't have the tools to help you
Yeah.
to guide you in the right way. But I mean, in my life coach business, that's the number one thing that women who come to me, the men wanted them to have children, and sometimes they leave because they cannot. I mean, this is a really a very fragile time. In the 40s, and I applaud you because you look great, girl.
Thank
You're
you. It
doing
might be
well.
because I never had kids. It might be. Okay. I was honest enough with myself to know that if I was going to have a child, I didn't want a baby daddy. That was not
Yes.
going to happen for me. I required I wanted somebody who I was convinced would be a partner, would be in it up to his eyeballs with me, that I was going to need an enormous amount of support. And because I'm my mother's only child, I have siblings from my father, but I lost my father when I was 15. Um, I didn't have like a support group that was right outside my door, and I just I just knew that I couldn't withstand that level of complication. Life was already it was so hard as it was, just navigating, through life as on my own. And I never really I had Peter Pan syndrome a little bit. That's what happens in this business. A little bit of like an arrested state of emotional development. I can acknowledge all of these things now because therapy allows you to identify all these things. But I didn't have the healthiest idea of what marriage was either because of domestic violence that I witnessed at an extraordinarily young age. So I think that I developed like an inherent distrust of men based on what I witnessed. And then also that marriage just was a facade. Like it was a lot to contend with. And it's only in my later years through therapy that I even have the vocabulary to even speak on this now. But back then it just was feelings. It was just feelings and fears and distrust and not really knowing much, just knowing I don't want to get pregnant because that sounds terrifying to me.
But at least you knew. At least you made that
respect that,
decision,
yeah.
and you're happy with it, and you're living with it. And I think that's part of the reason why that you glow and that you're adventurous and
I
you're
birthed these
yeah,
babies.
exactly.
This is the baby that I birthed.
Exactly.
This is it.
And that's because you actually knew what you wanted to do.
Okay, so unfortunately, we have to wrap up within the next 10 minutes, which really sucks. We're going to have to do a part 2 because I feel like this conversation is so valuable and it needs to be continued. And there's so many cards. I had so many topics, but let me just jump right into the thick of things. Let's talk about dating and sex.
Woo.
Boy, was I in for a shock when I found out about sex in your 40s. Okay. And then you guys can tell me about, how it's been for you in 50s, heading into 60s, and then 70. Because, all right, where do I start? First of all, menopause, perimenopause, whatever you want to call it. I was not prepared And I feel like the vast majority of women were not prepared. Our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties, it was the change of life. It was something that they stayed silent on. It was rooted in shame. It just wasn't discussed. And I don't know how they went without talking about it because I can't shut up about it. Everybody's going to hear what the hell I got to say about menopause, okay? I'm not going through this shit alone.
Get that fan out.
Right? But here's the kicker. There's been so many things that made me so incredibly mad about menopause. Number one, the fact that menopause is associated with hot flashes or hot flushes, whatever you want to call it. I've never had one.
Yeah.
There's so many more
Thank you
symptoms.
for that, because that's the thing. That is
There's
so
so
much
many more
people think
symptoms.
that's what it's all
So
about.
my first symptoms, apparently I'm one of the early ones. So perimenopause usually starts like late 40s into early 50s. I started at 43, 44.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my symptoms were ass. Like it was chunks of hair falling out. My skin has always been tea, dry like the Crypt Keeper, nails brittle, mental fog. I had to write down in my phone what I was going into the next room for because I didn't believe that I was going to remember it. Lack of concentration. My perimenopause also intersected with immeasurable grief because my mom passed away. So symptoms just mirrored each other. So I was like, what fresh hell am I waking up to today? Instead of hot flashes, I had night sweats. I would wake up 6 to 7 times a night. Bed would be soaked in sweat. And I would wake up with this sense of anxiety, and heart palpitations, and this fucking song repeating itself in my brain. Time keeps on slipping.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
That's
what?
hilarious.
I'm just gonna jump off the balcony now. And I couldn't tell my grief from garden variety anxiety and perimenopausal depression. It was crazy. The other thing I did not know that happened is I'm using an antiquated term, so forgive me. I'm reading Estrogen Matters, and there's a correct term to use, but I'm going to use the antiquated term. It's called vaginal atrophy. I said, excuse me, what? Wait, what? What's happening to her? So, when you're in your 20s and 30s and you're like, I'm going to be celibate for a second. You can't do that now, okay? Because she was
Use it or
like,
use it.
oh, okay, so this is
Use
the
it or lose
cue
it.
to dry up and close up shop, and it's all over. Wait, what? So then I get into a conversation with my girlfriends, Carmen, and she's like, oh, you gotta buy yourself a dildo. I said, what? I'm clutching my pearls? I don't use those. She's like, you better get
have
one.
to.
And
It's
it better be
medicinal.
big and get a whole lot of lube. And I was like, what are you
Good
fucking telling me
advice.
right now? And then I had sex after like a year and a half of not having it, and he was very well endowed. And usually that was so amazing. Not this particular
Painful.
time. I was like,
Painful.
oh my God,
Oh,
make it
God.
stop.
I know.
This is
Get through
over.
it. Finish.
Right. So these are all the things that I discovered, in the journey that is called perimenopause. So as this relates to dating and sex, it changed my perspective on, first of all, being a size queen. I was like, oh, I'm rethinking this whole, 9 inches or better thing. 4? You can come on.
can come on
That's
in.
Not
four.
through the door.
Okay, that's
can work with that.
You
Go too
now
far, Melissa.
have a seat at the table, motherfucker.
And there's many more of them than there are.
Than just that, but let's just start there with
Right.
the size queen shit. Out the fucking door, okay? So, what is your type now versus your type in your youth?
I'll be honest, my type has always been about energy
Okay.
and connection. It really has. So it hasn't changed in that sense. And I'm being very cautious about what I say here because my daughter's sat right over there. So I can't really indulge in
Carmen,
this
I'm gonna get
graphic
to you in a
conversation.
second.
But she's got me on Hinge and Raya. So if
Oh,
the right person comes
brilliant.
along, yeah.
Okay.
But I find the apps difficult because of
They are.
there's no energy. You can't.
No, there's not.
And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping it will
And
happen.
they'll ghost you, and it's just weird right now.
Yeah, I've done a fair amount of ghosting. To be
Oh,
honest.
well, shit.
To be
Okay.
honest, I know.
The ghoster.
Okay, all right. Angelique, I know that you kind of sort of just got out of a relationship, maybe?
I won't talk about that.
Okay.
But,
But how is your type
it's not
changed?
worth talking about, honestly.
Okay, well, how is your type? What's your type now versus in your youth?
In my youth, it was all, all that glitters is gold.
Yeah.
It's shiny and, body and now
Money.
all that stuff. Money's still a thing, but not as much. I'm still into how someone physically takes care of themselves. I'm into someone who cares. And you don't have to be an Adonis, but you have to care enough to work out a few days a week.
Men will quickly turn us into Medicaid nurses.
Yeah.
I'm not
like, and at my age, I'm very conscious of it. Like, I need you to, I don't want to be the only one getting up and going to the gym. And I'm not saying you have to do all that I do, but you have to do something.
Yes.
So that's a big factor for me. How they are with their children and family, all those things matter. When I didn't maybe care about anyone's family when they were in my 20s and 30s, now I care about that.
Kacy, what about you?
Energy is important to me. A loving nature and, a sense of, they have to be healthy and fit. I'm not saying they have to be a personal trainer. I never date personal trainers, but they have to be at least not make me feel bad about how because if you're like, why are you going to the gym again? This is not only is it my business, but this is what makes me feel good. So it has to be somebody who is healthy, but who is kind, and adventurous.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna tell you, when you get into the 70s, you want to make sure that they love an adventure. I do not, because I really know what I like and what I want now. And I want them to be confident enough to not be shocked at me actually saying, no, this is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And this is what I'd like to feel, instead of always making sure that I please them because of their ego. It's important for me to find a guy who's confident enough in himself that he will understand who I am at this age, because this is when, like your 40s and your 50s, you getting into you're coming into your goddess self. The queen is important because the queen energy helps you to understand is to rule is truly to serve, but you have to serve yourself. You have to remember that, and that's that queen. The goddess energy, when you start to get into your 60s and 70s, is like there is magic in that, because you don't deal with the bullshit, but it's like you really own your stuff. You know what you like. And that's important. And I need a man who can handle that. So then not think of me as because I'm going to be kind and soft, but that does not mean that I don't know what I want.
Exactly.
And I know what I like.
Just somebody who doesn't make you think that you have to shrink yourself in any way, shape, or form.
Never. I would never be with anyone.
I have
like
one
that.
last dating and sex question. We're going to do rapid fire, and then we are going to end the episode with one last question, and a question for Carmen, Mia's daughter. I remember being in my late 20s and having an orgasm and felt like I was talking to God, to where tears streaming down my face. He was like, oh my God, what did I do? I was like, and now it feels like muted. I don't know what that's about. I feel like God plays a trick on us. Maybe it's different in your 50s, 60s, 70s. Tell me that it is, because right now I feel like my body and my libido are like having this war with each other. Like, we don't really feel like it. It's not that important. I don't really know. And then other days it's like, oh, wow, okay, that harkens back to, like what it felt like once upon a time. What does climax feel like for you guys now?
You create it.
Yeah.
You create it. When you create it. It's like, do not think that you cannot, that it's over, that your libido is forever over.
Maybe my pelvic floor is weak or something. I don't know.
But it's like a woman who, has a baby and all she thinks about is getting back to her old body. That doesn't work. Go for something better. You can't compare. Like, there's a whole new way of it's like maybe it's not about that quick fix, and that quick, like, and the tears. Maybe it's a slow burn. You know what I'm saying? And there is a slow burn to it. Maybe you decide later in life to like really enjoy the journey, not such a quick foreplay is very important to me now.
It always has
You know,
been to me.
that's me too, but even more so now. But it's not about just I can set the ambiance for it. I can help to create the mood for it now. I'm more confident in what I like, you know, so so your libido will rev up the way that you want it to. Do not think that it's over. Do not think it's mindset still.
I don't necessarily think that it's old, that's over. It's been interesting to, navigate this. I'm constantly in a state of wonder, bad, good, or indifferent. I'm like, I feel very alive and I feel extraordinarily observant.
Even with the menopause.
Yes, I am
right.
observing objectively everything that's happening to me personally because I have to tell the story.
Yeah.
Like that's my gig. That's the job.
And you
want to
be present for it. You don't want to repeat it.
I want to be present for it because in all honesty, it's fucking hilarious. Like that's the other thing is like I think that in my 20s and 30s I thought that aging was really gonna suck, but I find so much humor in it. I find humor in the frozen shoulder. I find humor in, things that are just a little bit more difficult to do than they were at another point in my life. I just find the humor in it.
Yeah.
I actually
It sounds like a sick joke when you think you get to go to have sex and it's like, what? This is so painful.
Yeah.
But it does get better.
Yeah.
Well, you know how I feel about this. Hormone replacement therapy.
Girl,
Period.
whole other
Whole other-
episode. A whole other
Have you done the
episode.
vaginal? Have you done the vaginal?
Estrogen.
No. I do the
Suppositories.
pellet.
We do the pellets. We go to the same place and we get the
you
pellets.
have the pellets.
Yeah.
And
And it's the greatest thing
It's the
ever.
greatest thing.
Yeah.
the libido's through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see you're back.
Yeah. Hormone
Libido's through the roof.
There's something for everything.
There's a lot of controversy around hormone replacement therapy for so many different reasons.
Yes.
Junk science that has been debunked,
Yep.
but still some women, the fear is so pervasive that hormone replacement therapy causes breast cancer. It's not true.
I think it's conspiracy. I think they don't want older
Yes.
women.
Yeah,
Because
you know
they
what?
know.
Because they want us to be weak.
Yes.
Because the reality of the situation is that hormone replacement therapy helps to maintain strong bone density, which is extraordinarily important for us.
Lots of health benefits.
Yeah, there's so many health benefits to it. So, this is something that I would encourage anybody who's watching this, who is, who's suffering the effects of menopause and it really, really sucks. Talk to your health practitioners about hormone replacement therapy. And if they won't talk to you about it, but they want to throw an antidepressant at you, go find somebody else because you're going to find somebody else that will talk to you in a very frank and candid manner and actually, and weigh whether this is a good option for you. It's not for everybody, but it is for the vast majority.
That pellet,
different
it's
degrees
very
of it.
interesting. Within the pellet is a great. I mean, they've been doing it in Brazil for years, but I think it's really amazing to have it. I've never
The
taken
best thing I've ever done.
And she's the reason why I get it done
But I'm
here.
amazed at what
Everything.
It is great. So before I get into the rapid fire, I did want to ask Carmen a question. Carmen is Mia's daughter. She is off camera. Since you're 20,
26.
26, did you find this conversation valuable, or is this too far in advance of your sense of perception of your future self?
I think these conversations are extremely valuable and important. Some of the topics aren't relevant to me right now, but they will be eventually. You can't, live without aging. We're all aging. These will become more and more relevant as I grow older. I implore young people of my age to be more invested in these conversations as well, because we need to know what to expect.
What's coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I feel so much more confident.
It's nice to have role models and things that you that there's something there for you. That there's hope, there's a light at the end that it's not over.
I think my experience is very unique, having my mum as my mum and, with what she does. But I definitely find a lot of value in the conversations and also having multiple people's perspectives as well, because mum always says there's no one way of aging. And however it turns out for me, I think I'm much more confident on the journey with conversations like this happening and being part of these conversations and being invested in them. So yeah, it's very important, very valuable.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, ladies, we always wrap up our episodes by doing a very quick rapid fire. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. First question, short and thick or long and skinny?
Short and thick.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think so. Short and thick.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Marry for love or marry for money?
Love for me, for sure. Yeah. I'm older. I'm older.
Well, now I think I think money might not be
I was
enough.
gonna say, since you have 2 under your belt and it was love,
Yeah,
probably money right
I think
now.
the money now because the love was like,
Yeah.
you know. So.
Money.
Money. Save it for marriage or test the waters?
Test the water.
Hell yeah, because that's the last thing you want to find
That's
out is
fun.
younger men or older men?
I'm an equal opportunity girl.
Yeah.
I've had both. I like both.
Mhm.
You know. So
I would like someone my age,
Mhm.
ideally. But really, realistically, I'm not finding him. So I've
The younger guys are
so,
beating
yeah.
down your door, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the same with you.
I don't like-
Everybody's in your DMs. Christ on a cracker.
Send it my
I
way.
guess younger.
I get nothing.
Yeah, we'll do like a little number exchange here. We're all friends now. Okay,
Younger.
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 I feel you on that. You saw that Tracy Ellis Ross interview, right?
mhm.
Oh, okay. Living alone or living in partnership?
Living alone.
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 I know, a partnership, but it had to be a big house.
Separate bedrooms.
Well, they could have to have a separate apartment, and we enjoy each other's homes. Yeah, I like that. You like my house, I like your house, and we cohabitate in each other's, world.
good
But
way
I
to
like,
start.
having my space.
I like my space too. I think I've just
too.
got used to my space.
Yeah.
It's been so long. But I am a romantic, and I think ideally I would like to
I want to ride
with
out to the
someone.
sunset.
You could be
I want to ride out
romantic
to the
and not,
sunset living
you
alone.
still have it.
I like. I would like that ultimately.
Actually, sometimes it lasts longer when you had that little bit of
We need
separation.
to definitely exchange numbers.
We're gonna do the whole exchange number. Kacy Duke, Mauge, and Angelique Miles. Mauge? Mauge. I got that right. It's Strange Mauge. And Angelique Miles, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And thank you guys.
That was great.
Thank y'all for joining me. And thank you guys for joining me on this episode. I hope that it was everything that I believed that it was going to be. And I am going to continue this conversation because this is my favorite topic.
two's coming up.
Part 2 is going to come up. Absolutely. So thank you for joining me. Take care.
That was great.
Thank you for tuning into Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford. Please rate, subscribe, and comment and share wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This season of Hot and Bothered with Melyssa Ford is hosted, written, and executive produced by me for Forged Path Productions. This episode was written and produced by Sebastian Godin. Filming and editing of this episode is done by GVI Films and executive produced by Rachel DeSalvo.